March, Offworld Recon. Let me tell you, this game makes me want to march off-world, right into the fucking sun. Made way back in 2002 by a company called HBM, and published by Buka Interactive. March runs on the Lithtech engine, you know, that famous games engine that powers Blood 2 and Shogo. Also, some other games, I guess. I found this game as a kid in a secondhand store and managed to persuade my dad to buy it for me. If only I knew what I was getting myself into. If I had to describe the game in a single word, that word would be jank. Actually, no, it would be a muffled cry of pain and confusion. So just the kind of game for this show. First problem, mounting the game. See, this game comes from a time when software would be on these things called CDs, and one of the ways devs made sure that you weren't stealing the software was to check if the CD was in the CD-ROM drive. I, a self-respecting shill for the industry-leading digital download platform, Games for Windows Live, have no need for such a device, and instead had to conscript Thunder to rip the disk for me.
What?
Rip it! Next, I had to recreate the ISO using these ripped files. By mounting this, I managed to bypass that tricky security and finally install. Now, before you suggest that I should have just gotten a no CD crack, let me ask you first, who the fuck would pirate this game? Second problem, the resolution. The game wanted to run at a crisp 640 by 480 resolution. Gross. After a little research, I found that editing the resolution wasn't actually that difficult, a simple config file edit. Personally, I'm actually quite impressed with how well the HUD scales up, and with this resolution, the models and textures don't look like complete garbage. The game really tries to lay its plot on thick during this opening cutscene. That's probably to make up for the sheer lack of it during the rest of the game. So allow me to sum it up. After a series of failures, humanity abandons colonizing Mars. But now there's something fucky going on the surface of the Red Planet, and it's up to you and your AI team to go investigate. Pretty straightforward, right? I mean, if you discount the time-traveling Martian ghost robots. The game opens up on a runaway space station, with a couple of nice empty corridors to learn how to move. Pretty soon, however, you realize that, whoa man, my hands. Something isn't quite right. Third problem, the controls. Once I got into the game proper, I had a small problem with the controls. Occasionally, my aim would fly off, my character would turn 90 degrees at random intervals, and my mouse sensitivity would fluctuate wildly. I'm still not entirely sure what caused it, but I think it had something to do with direct input. Luckily, some turbo nerd has made a patch that forces games using these older versions to use direct input 8, which doesn't have this problem. Returning to your team, you are suddenly besieged by the first enemy in the game, the loader drone. Occasionally, when robots are killed, they'll release spooky ghosts. To hell with proton packs. Liberal application of minigun will get rid of these aberrations. Here we also find our first set of extra weapons. Each is actually just a modification for the minigun. Fourth problem, the music. For whatever reason, whenever a music track in the game finishes, the whole game hangs for about 30 seconds before the track restarts. This is particularly annoying when it happens in the middle of firefights. The solution to this was simple, disable the music. Don't worry, we're not missing out on much. Not long after meeting the loaders, we meet rocket tanks and tasers. Rocket tanks are common, tough, and will cough up a steady stream of rockets at you. They have that Blood 2 vibe where the blast radius is way larger than it should be. Also, look at that face. What the fuck? Tasers rapidly fire blue lightning bolts that will freeze you in place and sway your vision on hits. Because that's fun. It's not fun! Meanwhile, your AI teammates will most likely have died by their own ineptitude, and provide little to no real support. In the off chance that you'll die before your squad does, you're instantly transferred to controlling one of them. 9 times out of 10, however, you'll just reload a save anyway, since your previous body had all the weapon upgrades you've been collecting. Sometimes the AI will run over weapon kits and steal them for themselves. The problem here is they have no understanding on how to use them, and seem to just use the default minigun no matter what. You can give them rudimentary orders. However, most of the time, you'll just order them to sit in a corner acting as a firing line, or as a distraction whilst you do the actual work. The end of the space station mission is a boss fight against what I can only describe as a murderous disco ball. Directly injuring the ball is impossible. Instead, you have to goad it into using its insta-kill laser attack to destroy its own electronics, all the while you are being chased by loaders. In reality, all you can do is circle strafe around it and hope some of its attacks will line up with the desired targets. I sure hope this isn't a sign of things to come. Heading down to the Martian surface, you are strafed by bombers the second you get off the transport, in a defend this position section that takes far too long. Next up is the most asinine puzzle in a video game ever. First, you have to clear out this tough arena. Then you have to go up this central pyramid. Next, you have to push a button to unlock one of the 4 watchtowers found in each corner of the arena. Then you have to head over to that tower, scale it, and push a button inside. Then you have to head back outside, back up the pyramid again, and see 4 lights outside the map that display the correct code for that tower. Then you have to return to the tower again, input that code, before finally returning to the pyramid to see if the code is correct. You have to do this 4 fucking times. Moving on, your team steals a train and heads towards the robotics facility to try and halt the production of the robots. At the factory, the lone player treks into what looks like a scrapped Quake 2 mission. We get another weapon here, the heavy plasma thrower. This is the first of a few primary weapons that can pose a serious risk to the player, considering the game's broken splash damage. We also get the Insert Coin power-up, which highlights enemies and displays their HP. This is, as far as I know, the only time it shows up in the entire game. Things take a turn for survival horror, as health supplies dwindle and the player is faced with newly produced clones of themselves. Just got to shut down these machines and... Okay, that's kinda loud, but whatever. As you shut down the production line, the robots are forced to use half-finished clones to fight you. Next machine and... Moving right along, we unbox a fresh set of clones to replenish our allies, and get back aboard that train. Following the tracks down to the end of the line, the train makes an automatic stop at a nearby station and awaits the delivery of a tactical nuke. The team dismounts and sets to trying to find this weapon so they can continue. As most of the team split off, you go on ahead and... what? Why is there this Normandy beach looking shithole here? Who buries mines on Mars? What the fuck is going on? This section is a painful slog of instant death locations, enemy missile spam, and screen-shaking explosions, so I'll spare you the majority of it. Once we get to the other side, we open the armory to find the nuke and... What the fuck is this? Whatever, it makes about as much sense as anything else. After an equally painful escape, we get back aboard the train and drive out. The next stop is a training facility, where we're tasked with taking that nuke to a building at the far end of the training course. Look, I've stopped asking questions at this point, and so should you. You can't shoot whilst holding the nuke, and enemies will try and steal it from you if you drop it. So this level mostly turns into a mad dash whilst your teammates soak up fire.
Fast as fuck, boy!
This is, fine, I guess. You face off against these War of the Worlds looking tripods that are never seen again, and after planting the nuke, you're given a solid minute to escape. Next stop on the train ride is the Guardian. This huge mechanical monster shells you from the other side of the valley and makes crossing the bridge impossible. To beat him, you have to load these World War II looking anti-tank cannons, and after each shot you have to trek back to the bunker to grab another shell. Each shot, however, summons a wave of enemies to come harass you, the most notable being a fistful of taser bots. Stunned movement plus a boss that fires explosives equals a bad time. The correct way to beat the boss is to actually stockpile a bunch of shells at the furthest turret and then to just wail on him all at once. Dealing with the waves of enemies is much easier once the explosive rain has stopped. Time for spooky alien ghosts. This map is basically one long tunnel with a really obnoxious gimmick. There are these practically invisible spawn points that will endlessly summon ghosts until they're destroyed. They can only be destroyed with explosive weapons, and the primary source of which is a respawning grenade launcher at the start of the map. So you have to find a spawner, shell the thing until it dies, travel back to the spawn to restock, return, and repeat. If you don't destroy them all, you can't progress to the next level. This level also introduces you to the Accelerator, a weapon that fires explosive bouncy balls. However, in these tight corridors, it's basically a suicide button. The next level is more of the same, in a spooky ghost robot spaceship. At least the larger corridors here make the Accelerator less likely to kill you. Somewhat. You might think I'm skipping over things, but honestly, I'm really not. Next up is... this boss is a boring slog. The boss sits in the middle of the room invulnerable and constantly summons ghosts to chase you. Occasionally it will open up and become vulnerable for an incredibly short amount of time, during which time you blast it with rockets. Rinse and repeat. Once it's over, you walk through a mysterious portal and get teleported to a Serious Sam level. This level's a goddamn nightmare, with endless spawners that keep spamming tasers and insta-kill flying mines, and multiple carry gem X to room X objectives that needlessly pad out the level. In some places, they don't even spawn enemies in until you've already walked out to the open, meaning you can't avoid their initial attacks. Towards the end of this level, you are ordered to hold this position for 5 minutes, during which an endless supply of suicide worms will spawn. I spent most of this time just mindlessly shooting them with a minigun. Moving on, we have another boss, the Bug. This boss is a bit more interesting than the others, that it has a couple of neat attacks and will spawn suicide worms to flush you out of cover. Ultimately, however, it still boils down to trap in corner and shoot until dead. With the Bug defeated, it's time to move on to the final boss of the game. A massive arena with a huge flaming robot trying to obliterate you. This guy does insane amounts of damage, and his attacks are extremely difficult to dodge. He's almost impossibly hard. In fact, I think it is impossibly hard. There simply isn't enough supplies on the map to take him down. However, whilst looking for more supplies, I parkoured over to the other side of the map and found that I'd somehow managed to get him stuck on the bridge, attacking his own feet. He was slowly killing himself. So fuck it. The game has janked me around long enough. I'm gonna have the last laugh. Let him kill himself. And that was March. The game ends with a to-be-continued hook, which was obviously never delivered, and frankly I'm kinda glad. The entire game felt like a Quake 2 mod made by a couple of students, and not a multi-person project that got translated and sold internationally. Speaking of people, I did some digging into the team behind this game. Most of them worked on just this and then disappeared into obscurity. However, one person stood out. One of the two designers, I'm gonna butcher his name, Sergei Laranov. He has since gone on to work on other projects, his most recent being as a producer in 2019's World War Z at Saber Interactive. Armed with this knowledge, and with a little bit of weaponized autism, I managed to dig up his Russian LinkedIn page. I will be sending him an email containing this video. It is my hope that Mr. Laranov will watch this and remember of the unreal horror he helped bring into this world. It dawned on me whilst I was editing this that I'd never actually got around to giving the game a final score. So, I give the game 2 crashes out of a blue screen.